So we did the call to order, and now the agenda is we're going to introduce the attending chapter leaders, those people from the different chapters around the state. We're going to approve the minutes from before, which we've pretty well already looked at. The treasurer's report, somebody will give that in Christine's absence. Lou is here to give the membership report. Richard Clement will give you a report about the talk list, and then we'll talk about the campaign for Safer Michigan, repealing prohibition, and we do have petitions. Please don't leave here without them.
All right. Yeah.
And there will be an auction. If there are too many items, we'll try to do a silent auction for a bunch of them. But we can do at least a half hour of auction to raise some money for all of this. So, that being said, the first thing on the agenda, which will follow, is the introduction of attending chapter leaders. So if you are a leader of a normal chapter, please introduce yourself.
Daniel J. Corsi.
And somebody was just looking for you, Daniel. I don't leave without petition. Right.
Diane Lucky, Osceola County contact.
Reverend Stephen P. Thompson, Benson County NORML.
All right.
Brad Forrest, Sheboygan County.
Yeah.
Archie Keel, Kalkaska County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Newmar, Berrien County, Michigan.
John Larson, King County.
Terry Marichette, Ogama, Aranac, Roscommon County, as we are oaring upstream trying to make a difference in our cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Andy Grodcheck, Oscoda County.
Yes, indeed.
Steve Rosencrantz, Shiawassee County.
Yeah.
Richard Clement, Ingham County. Yeah.
Carrie Newville
I'm
Justice.
Wood, Midland County.
Yay.
You keep moving? It's a different county every time, Bob.
Yeah, a harder target to hit.
Carrie?
Carrie Newville Justice, Genesee County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good job down there.
Other county chapter leaders present?
April Coleman, Tuscola County.
April Coleman, Lake and Nuevo County.
Yeah.
Ottawa, 100-year centennial celebration this year. Ottawa, Michigan is 100 years old, historical renown as the first black community in the United States of America, and having a 100th flavor party.
April, when is the 100th? Is it before July 9th?
No, second week in August.
Okay, so we can go celebrate the, when we get on the ballot.
Yeah.
The other chapter leaders want to introduce
Good
yourself.
Morning America voted us the most beautiful place in America, Leelanau County, Griffin Cypress.
Mark Ryan, Grand Traverse County.
So, the rest of you who are from counties where no one spoke up, that means you need to be the county leader in that county. Or you need to find the county leader in that county to do that. And really an effective normal chapter, you're going to see through this petition drive, this is what we built normal to do. And I stand on the shoulders of giants. Thank you, Reverend Steve. So we've spent years building this organization, and now it's time to put it into effect, to really to make it the political strength that it needs to be. And we need, as the petitions need to be signed per county, you can only have people, registered voters from any one county on a petition. And the name of the county is at the top of the petition. Well, we really, in my ideal world, we'll have a distribution center and a signing center in every one of those counties, all 83 counties in Michigan. So if you live in Ontonagon, you can go into the dispensary in White Pine and sign the petition. But a dispensary is not, it's probably the last place we really want to have petitions. Because for two reasons. One, not everybody can get in there. If you're limiting it to card holders only, you've completely limited your population. And secondly, we've seen dispensaries which have been raided where there were recall shooting petitions that were taken that are still being held by the police. And we don't want that to happen. So, grow stores would be great. If you own a location where, on a main road especially, where we can put up a sign, stop in, sign the petition, that's what we need. This is a sprint for 6 months. So we have 180 days, we got a hard deadline of July 9th.
Yes.
So, we'll come back to that. If one of you want to discuss the minutes from before, or so you have an update, the board has begun weekly phone calls. It's taken us a couple weeks to get going, but we've been having weekly conference calls. And so a lot of the business we're able to expedite. We don't have to do it here because we're chatting about what's going on. A lot of it is about the petition drive. The other things are just logistically, that the next meeting is going to be in Ann Arbor, pre-hash bash, and Brad will tell you about an event he's trying to put together, or he is putting together for that. And so you know, this is being taped, I believe, is that right?
Yes.
Somebody's filming this. So the camera is in the back of the room. If there are those of you who don't want to be filmed, you should at least know there's a camera there in the back of the room and it's running. So, like Mr. Groh who came in the door, he might not want to be recognized, but Daniel Groh came and one of the earlier contributors to the campaign, by the way, he and his partner.
Yeah.
So, has the board had the opportunity to review the minutes from the prior meeting? And does anybody want to bore the body with reading them? Because I'm willing to overlook that if somebody makes a motion.
Second.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any objection? Cool. Okay, we'll take the minutes to be approved. And the treasurer's report. Christine is not here. I think she's run off with all the money. Just hope y'all, somebody's going to put that on the talk list.
Right now.
Really. And speaking of rumors, I made a stupid joke about a friend, a member in the community the other day, and then I said, you know what, I can't even say that in jest anymore. We just, because people were all so sensitive, and one thing taken the wrong way can send us all off on a tangent. So let's all be very careful about our language and firing off quick emails, because it can be really destructive, and we got to keep our eye on the prize here, which is getting this thing on the ballot.
Woo!
You like cowboys? Yeah, I used the word cowboys that got printed in the free press, and some cowboys beat me up about it. Oh, wait, maybe that's not politically correct. Anyway, the treasurer's report, we still have money, we're building money. We're hoping to supplement that with a fundraiser. Every state chapter of NORML is supposed to have an annual fundraiser where the proceeds are split, divided with national NORML to help the national body function. And so that's the intention of this fundraiser in April that's being put together, that Brad will tell you about. So, I don't have any particular numbers. Any of you guys want to care to? We have a couple $1,000 in the treasury is what it is. And there's no intention, none of it has been spent on this petition drive. And it certainly is not my intention to drain Michigan NORML of money in order to do this petition drive. We should be able to raise that money elsewhere. On the other hand, I'm not, the whole reason NORML is here is to do something like this petition drive. So maybe that is how we want to spend the money.
The fund for the board, for the petition review and curiosity and will set up is completely separate from what you're talking about.
Yeah, the petition drive, a petition drive for a constitutional amendment is something that requires once you have raised or spent $500. You're required to register with the Secretary of State what's called a ballot question committee. There are candidate committees, there are other kinds of committees. But this is a ballot question committee. The ballot question in this case is a constitutional amendment. Also a statutory thing would be, like the MMMA was a ballot question, was a constitutional amendment, but this is. So we were required to file with the Secretary of State the name of the committee, and if you write a check and any contribution over $20 needs to be in a written instrument, like a check or money order, payable to the Committee for a Safer Michigan. We hope you all like the name. The Committee for a Safer Michigan is the ballot question committee, the name of the ballot question committee that's funding this operation. The website is repealtoday.org. The committee, so you've got, and repealtoday.org and safermichigan.org are both owned by our webmaster, a guy who's doing this as a volunteer, and they're both going to link to whichever the major site is, whether it's Repeal Today or Safer Michigan, they're both going to go to the same website. Right now, what we're directing everybody to repealtoday.org, where originally the first page was just a volunteer sign-up page. But if you've been there lately, there are a couple of other tabs on there now. And there's about to be, he's been spending days working on a donate tab, which when you click on it, I don't know if it's going to be set up where there's certain amounts or you fill in the amount, but we've already, James Campbell, the treasurer, set it up with a credit card company where we will be taking credit cards for the campaign, and so we're going to solicit far and wide on that. As long as I'm telling you about that, the petitions were drafted, my partner Tom Levine and I drafted it. We had these Monday night, how many people here were ever at one of the Monday night discussion groups in my office? By a show of hands. Okay, so some of the people in the crowd for sure. And the others of you are certainly welcome. We do political nights Mondays. What happened was, people were bugging me about, people were bothering me about, well, not bothering me, calling our office, complaining and upset about Bill Schuette, about the Courts of Appeals decisions, and the way the police are treating everybody. And when people are coming at you at all angles, it's like, we're mad, you know, and everybody was directing that toward me. And I said, well, damn, come on over on Monday night, we're going to sit down and talk about it. And that's what happened. And Carrie showed up, and Marvin showed up, and Dan, and Lou, and Trina, and Bob, and Richard, and, Wayne, and so we all kicked around. The very first night we decided to do a statewide petition drive of something. That was our only hope, that we've been through, we tried the courts, and we've been getting bad decisions from the Court of Appeals, one after another after another. And the Supreme Court just heard the first case on Thursday. Some of us were there, but they're not going to make a decision on that for months. And that's not even about selling. That's only about the affirmative defense and that kind of stuff. And then, you can go to the courthouse and you can stand out front and protest, and then the judge might call you in and ask you if you were telling jurors that they'd have to vote guilty and stuff, And I mean, how far is that going to get you? You can call your state representative, your state senator, your congressperson, and your U.S. senator. How many people have written to Debbie Stabenow, got the same letter back year after year that says, oh, thank you for bringing this issue to my attention. I assure you that when it comes before me, that I will consider your opinion.
Right.
Like, no, we're not asking you to wait until it comes before you. We're asking you to take action on this and do something about it. And that's what's not happened. And so, these Monday night groups, it was, the room's, well, 2/3 this size and just as many people in the room. And the very first night we decided to do some type of an initiative. And because of the higher signature amount, we were going to do a statutory thing. And we were going to do decrim. And my partner Tom and I and some other people spent weeks drafting. We went through how many signatures, what are the deadlines, constitutional amendment or statutory, and decrim or legalization. And so people said, well, we can't really decide about decrim because we don't know what that looks like. What would it really look like? And they wanted detail, you know, well, what would the penalty be for, you know, whatever, right? Smoking selling 2 joints to a cop back when Sinclair did it, was 20 years. 10 years, sorry. So, we drafted this whole decrim thing, and then we presented it one night. I don't know if any of you were there that night. And we got about halfway through it, and the people in the crowd were like, this is way too complicated. What the hell, you know? It takes a half hour to explain to somebody, and then they still don't understand it. Because there's so many different criminal statutes that penalize marijuana possession and delivery and cultivation and all that. And they're different. There's felonies, there's a 15-year and a 7-year and a 4-year, and then there's a 2-year maintaining a drug house and a 1-year possession and a 90-day use, and you gotta drop those all down and everything. And by the time we're done, people are saying, well, what should be the penalty for possessing a joint? You know? Nothing. And so that's what we went with. And then we said, well, you know, what's the difference whether you have a joint or 1,000 joints? Is how many beers can you have in your fridge? You know?
Yeah.
And why should there be limits? And then we talked about things like, well, there's a whole segment of us who won't vote, who free the weed, but no tax and no regulation. There's a group that said, oh, you can't do this without a whole taxation and regulation scheme. And we're like, well, look, any tax and regulation scheme has been shot down. The governmental employees are afraid to do it. The government won't implement it. When you sue them, the courts won't force them to do it. And so why are we going to complicate things with something that's not going to work anyway? Let's leave it up to the government to figure out how to regulate it. You know, we didn't say you can't regulate it. We just said you can't be prosecuted for something, you know, criminally prosecuted. That doesn't mean they can't set up some zoning thing and get civil tickets that says you can't have a marijuana sign in the front window. But, you know, we didn't have to go there. And so everybody likes it. It's amazing. I've shopped it to a lot of people. The only criticisms that I've really received are people who don't understand the stuff about impaired driving. They read that it says, oh, you can't drive while impaired. I had somebody sent me something that said, well, I don't like the drug testing provisions. I'm like, there aren't any drug testing provisions in there. It's what you were smoking. It says nobody shall be allowed to drive or operate heavy machinery, or boat, cars, or aircraft, and trains, and snowmobiles, and ORVs while you're impaired. That's all it says. It doesn't say you get tested. You get tested now. It doesn't change that. You know, so that's a fight we'll take on in the future. And so, somebody should probably read the language. When you get the petitions, it's got to be an 8-point type. The damn language is so small, you can't hardly read it. And by the way, we didn't include any instructions on it. And when later on, there will be a class, somebody will talk to you, I don't know who's going to do it, about instruction. But the most important things are the name of the county goes at the top, only signatures from registered voters who live in that county, and they've got to sign it in front of you because you're signing a sworn statement at the end that all these people signed it in front of you. So you don't leave it on the counter and go to lunch and it's filled up when you get back. You take it with you, and if somebody there wants to watch it while you're at lunch, you give them their own petition. And there is only one person who is a circulator for each petition, and we want to be very careful about this. It doesn't help us to get bad signatures, or fraudulent signatures, or sloppy things, or if people write their own date of birth in there. They write the date that they signed it, is the date that goes in there, okay? And just really pay attention to the first person who signs a petition, because if the first one gets it right, the people are going to tend to follow. Okay? So do that. All right. But because if the first one gets it wrong, like if they put their signature in the line where you have to write your name, it won't count. And everybody else does that, and then you're out. So, Lou, would you care to give a membership report, sir?
Sure, why not? I'm happy to report that membership in Michigan NORML is growing like a weed. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. for those who like numbers, since we started this adventure about 10 years ago, we have signed up 1,550 people. So we're well on our way to 2,000. While I have your attention just for a second, let me briefly go off topic. Well, not that far off topic. I don't know if you noticed on the talk list, I put out a request for large stems. Well, this is what I do with them. I make joint holders. There's one style. There's another style.
Get out of here.
Check out that lamp that's on right there. Yeah, that one. So here's the bottom line, and I'll say it quickly. I'm looking for cannabis stems at least the diameter of a man's thumb.
up as high as I could.
Okay? Anybody who gives me stems, I will return to you a handmade object, something interesting and useful like a pipe maybe, or a lamp, depending on what your stems are like. So,
That's great.
Cool.
membership is great, and please give me stems.
Let's roll.
In the meantime, all right, thank you, Lou. And next, the talk list report.
Talk list
Richard. Talk list.
Thanks, Randy.
Everybody get your hands together. We're gonna do a little chant, warm the crowd up.
Is he going on the computer?
Give me a W. Give me an E. Another E. And a D. What does it spell? What we not. It's what we need. Say it louder. Say it louder. Yes, indeed. The free the weed. All right. I had a brain fart while you talked. For those who don't know me, my name is Richard Clement.
Richard.
Managing Talk List and Director of Minority Outreach and IT programs at Michigan NORML. It's great to see you guys in person. First, I want to thank Reverend Steve. I didn't get over there yet. He got me a hug, man. This is my mentor, Reverend Steve. Thank you for serving. I can't hope you're doing well. The Talk List. But it's about all talk. But anyway, who are you guys? Basically, my function is like to monitor the vibe and all that. But all of it's just cannabis related. We're all about pushing cannabis. We're all about creating jobs with the cannabis stems. We're all about creating jobs with the hemp fuel in Michigan State. So now it's time to make an economic argument, okay? Economic jobs and saving court costs. As you know, we did the recall. That's going well. Why? Because A, it comes from a common person. I'm not a lawyer. I'm an IT geek, okay, be honest. I love computers. Just nice. I love weed too. So, but what you guys have done to collectively have shook the living crap out of the folks in Lansing, especially my favorite Attorney General. Can I say we're going to march higher? Technically, I know there's some people under 40, under 50 in here that use Skype and Twitter. Okay. Want to connect with you guys and us old farts. Worked on the punch cards. Gonna still connect with you guys, and just basically let's keep it on the real. We're working. It's working well. I know we all come from different parts and different parts. This is a big ass state, and I'm pledging to get to the UP.
Yeah.
UP is in UP's in. Say you have to be UP.
Youpers.
Youpers. I'm getting up there. Going to get our message out to the west side of the state too.
The north side.
Huh?
We're trolls.
The west side.
Oh, okay. want to get our message on that talk list. Our talk list came from ages. It's older technology.
How many people are on the talk list, Richard?
How many on our talk list is like 450, and one time it was 420. 420.
And boy, can it be entertaining at times.
You know it.
Remember, we have a news list, which is our regular news list, of which I'm going to help Matt to the nth degree about using it as our press release. Got 800 members, okay? We're going to make normal create technology jobs, okay? None of this 120-day bullshit. Oh, excuse me, can I be honest?
Okay.
We want our cards in our hand by 20 days.
10 months.
Yeah.
By 20 days. None of this. With a high
10 months.
The hell with carrying
10
paper?
months.
Huh?
10 months.
And we're going to have to file suit that, hey, we want those cards for the people in 20 days. No more backlog.
Well, that's,
Anyway, I'm done with the tech part.
thank you, Richard. We can get a little off topic, but that was the talk list report. And let me just say about the talk list that your restraint is appreciated. You know, sometimes somebody says something. You have to understand there are a lot of us among us are patients and sometimes in pain. And so something little that you might blow off some other time can really get under somebody's skin. And so it's best to take a deep breath. If somebody does go off on you, you know, it's best to let it blow over rather than to retaliate and then let somebody post some obscenities on the talk list about it.
Every once in a while, I'm guilty of putting something out there, and just as a suggestion, breathe, read, and smoke some weed. Before you hit 10.
Amen, brother.
There you go. Thank you. It's always a good idea. So, the campaign for a safer Michigan. The only person who's actually listed with the state of Michigan is the treasurer, who is James Campbell. He's a CPA. He has an office. His second office is at our place. His main office is in Royal Oak. But James has worked with a lot of dispensaries. He's doing this as a volunteer, and he's been reading the rules, and we're up on them. He's been working with the web guys to make sure that everything's straight, that all the record keeping is easy once the web donate button goes live, etc. So the campaign committee is, we're still looking for talented and committed people who have time and energy to work on this stuff. Dan Solano is on the committee, and Sharmi Golson and Brandy Zink and me are the heart of it. Gersh Avery's been working real hard on the campaign and has taken a lot of the field work, and Melody is also unwillingly but graciously taking a bunch of the field work.
Good job now.
And Bob Heflin, and those of you who even said, look, I don't know if this can be done, and I appreciate that, and I think it can be done. There's no guarantee in life, but this is our shot, and I think we should take it right now. Just so you know, the Board of Canvassers is not required to approve the petitions. However, they have an optional submission. We did submit it to them. It's a good thing we did, because they said you need this above that instead of the reverse. So our printer changed that. He did like 20 copies. We resubmitted it with the printer's affidavit. And let me explain just briefly how it works. In order for them, even though you're not required to submit it to the State Board of Canvassers, if you do, the only way they will take it is if it's accompanied by a signed, notarized affidavit from the printer that says that this petition form complies with all of the statutory requirements as to size of the paper, which is 8.5 by 14 only, so don't reprint it on 13-inch paper, 8.5 by 14 only, and don't reprint it at all, we'll just get more petitions. And that the font sizes need to be this stuff in 14-point type, and this stuff in 8-point type, and these exact words, and this and that and the other thing. And they don't touch the actual language, but the rest of it. is all very specific. And so, my partner and I talked with the lawyer for the commission on last Friday. It was Tuesday morning, doesn't matter. Anyway, she is the one who told us to flip these two things, and we did. And when we talked to her on Tuesday, she said, I don't see that it needs any other changes. I can't tell you it'll work, but it doesn't need any other changes as far as I'm concerned. And so, being a good lawyer, I cross-examined her a little bit and said, well, let me ask you this. Has the board ever denied one that you recommended approval on? And her answer was, well, I've only worked here for 2 years. So, now they may have not had a lot of petitions in 2 years. Okay, and then furthermore, so I'm satisfied that, that it'll go. It was, Tom and I kicked it around. The choice was either we hold up a week and a half and lose that time and take the risk that maybe the petitions won't be any good, although I think it's a very low risk, or we automatically burn the time waiting, and so we're not waiting. We don't, I don't think that's a risk. We'll know. The Board of Commissioners, or the Board of Canvassers, has now set the hearing for next Friday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning in Lansing. There are 2 constitutional amendments they're considering, 2 statewide initiatives. Ours is the first one, and secondarily there's one to require all the power generated in Michigan to be from 25% renewable sources by 2015, I think is the year, something like that. So they're going to try to get it on the ballot as well. And there may be some others that are out there being circulated. But I wanted to let you know, because the Free Press has reported that people are still out getting volunteers. It was in today's paper. They didn't get it right. And Bill Leitner called, outed me as a patient in the paper. I wasn't real happy about that. So I was just, leaving him and his misinformation for a little while. And maybe that's not good for the campaign. And if it isn't, we're certainly not going to play that. But what we've been, and I've done about 10 radio interviews in the last week. WOOD in Grand Rapids, public radio out of Ann Arbor, and WJR, I think it was, in Detroit, and Charlie Langton's show, WXYZ Talk Radio in Detroit. And every time I've been driving, it's, and if you want to volunteer, go to the website, sign up, repealtoday.org, www.repealtoday.org. And I'm talking to Charlie Langton. We got an hour on the air. I'm like, Charlie, I want to make sure I get a chance to pitch the site and everything. Oh, yeah, we'll get to that. Baloney. So if you're anyway, that's one of those things. You got to take it and put it out there. And they may, in fact, in the interview I did with WJR, they recorded it. And I'm afraid, and I only mentioned it twice, I'm afraid that during that, when they're recording it, they're going to splice it later and they're going to cut that out so they can spin it any way they want. But it's been, so we've been out there hustling for volunteers on the website. There are over 1,000 volunteers.
Right.
Yeah.
Way over 1,000. Like the last number I heard was 1,300 and something, and that was days ago. And we need to mine those volunteer lists and get them back out to all of you. Right. 50 signatures?
If that's accurate.
1,000 volunteers? No, 500 each. 500,000.
Well, I know
We're going for 500,000 signatures.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I'd like to do before we leave, or when we break up, is for the chapter leaders to get together and talk, just for 5 or 10 minutes, so you get to know each other and you bounce some ideas off each other, because the chapters need to begin meeting. This gives you something to meet about regularly. Reverend Steve has one of the few chapters I know of that actually meets regularly and religiously, if I can. Oh, I made it funny.
It's because he feeds us.
So, at this point, if there are no questions, and we'll take some, but I think this is time to go around the room and let people make comments. And, yeah, who would like to do that? we have about $4,700. And when we leave here, it'll probably be $5 grand because y'all are going to want to buy a bunch of that stuff in the auction. So,
Matthew,
I-
Matthew, can I just real quickly say, somebody took one of the handheld scales that I had sitting out for a demo. Pardon? Oh, you got it? Okay, never mind.
I'm sure they were just testing it to make sure it worked okay.
I just wanted to make sure somebody didn't buy the demo, and I
We-
was going to come back and exchange it for a real one.
I promised Tamara that I would, she was bothering me, and then we'll go around.
You were speaking of local, meetings on Monday nights, and I just wanted to ask, is there other nights of the week also that you gather for similar?
Well,
I thought there was other stuff, that's all.
yeah, our political nights are Monday. In our office, there's a Compassion Club which meets Tuesdays at 7, and there's another Compassion Club that meets on Fridays at 5.
Wow.
And eventually, when we get the place done, I'm hoping it'll be kind of a private club for medical patients if we still have to have medical patients. You know. So, yeah. But you're all welcome. Anybody who has a medical card is welcome to go to those club meetings. If you don't have a medical card, you're always welcome to come to the political meetings on Monday night.
I was just wondering about local.
And Macomb meets regularly, don't they? In fact, Macomb County NORML's meeting tomorrow.
Right.
So they do meet regularly.
Let me ask you a quick question for clarity. I went to a meeting last Friday.
Oh, shut up.
For Signature Drive.
Yeah.
Is there a division of us or they?
No, Chuckles is working with us.
And they're gonna have a
In
meeting
fact-
there every.
Chuckles' good friend Jackie, may I introduce Jackie Pierce? Come, Jackie.
Hi, Jackie.
Jackie Pierce has been petitioning since the Recall Angler campaign. Okay? So, some of you, she doesn't look that old, but she really is 22. And so, she's been working with our friend Chuckles, who wishes to kind of keep his own personal name out of it because of some of his family's political ties. But many of us know him, and he came to us through Charmy as